Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into a really fascinating, high-stakes battle between a market giant and its regulator that sent a stock on an absolutely wild roller coaster ride.
I mean, seriously, how does that even happen? We're talking about the Indian Energy Exchange, or IEX. This is a huge player in India's power sector, and well, it recently found itself in a fight that threatened its entire reason for being. All right, so to really get what's going on here, we need to understand what IEX actually is. For years, this company has been like this untouchable fortress in the energy market.
So what do? Put simply, IEX basically created this incredibly efficient stock market. But instead of trading shares, you're trading electricity. Big power plants and huge consumers could hop on and buy or sell power for the next day, or even, the next hour.
And here's the thing, they didn't just create a new market. They completely took it over. I mean, look at that number. At their peak, IEX was handling the vast majority of all electricity traded on exchanges in the entire country. That's pretty darn close to a monopoly. So how did they build this massive dominance? Well, this slide gets to the heart of it, their competitive moat. It's all about one word, liquidity. Think of it like a snowball rolling downhill. Because everyone was already on their platform, they had the most buyers and sellers. And when you have the most buyers and sellers, you get the most accurate price for electricity. That great price then pulls in even more users, and the cycle just keeps feeding itself. It's a powerful, self-reinforcing loop. But every fortress eventually faces a siege, and for IEX, the first siege engine has rolled up to the gates. It's called market coupling.
Okay, market coupling. What on earth is that? Well, in really simple terms, the regulator proposed a system that would just pool together all the buy and sell orders from every single power exchange, not just IEX. Then they'd use that giant pool to find one single, uniform price. Now, on the surface, that sounds pretty good for consumers, right? But for IEX, it's basically an existential threat. Let's look at the before and after to see exactly why.
And boom, here it is. This is the core of the threat. Before, IEX was the price maker. Their huge liquidity meant they set the benchmark. But after market coupling, a central operator sets the price. All that liquidity IEX built up, suddenly it's irrelevant. They go from being the king of the castle to just another bid collection agency. Their fortress is gone, and they're left to compete on fees alone.
So, as you can imagine, IEX was not about to take this lying down. They immediately challenged the regulator's order in court. They argued that the whole process was rushed, that it was flawed, and that it basically violated the principles of natural justice.
And just when you thought it couldn't get messier, it did. This wasn't just some dry technical regulatory debate. No, it exploded into a full-blown crisis. There were allegations of insider trading by the very officials who wrote the policy. It just cast this huge dark shadow over the entire process.
Okay, so you've got this huge fight over market coupling. But the attack wasn't over. At the exact same time, a second siege engine was rolled up to IEX's walls, and this one was aimed directly at their wallet. Yeah, reports started surfacing that the regulator, CERC, was also planning to slash the transaction fees that exchanges like IEX can charge. So if market coupling was a threat to their dominance, this was a direct shot at their profitability. And we're not talking about a small trim. The proposal was to cut the fee cap by a whopping 25%. We're going from 2 paise, that's 2/100ths of a rupee, per unit of electricity, down to about 1.5 paise for most trades. Right, so you're probably looking at that and thinking, hold on, we're talking about fractions of a penny here. How can this possibly be such a big deal? Well, here's why. Because those teeny tiny fees, when you collect them on billions and billions of units of electricity, they add up. In fact, they make up over 95% of the company's entire revenue. So a 25% cut in fees isn't a small thing. It's a direct, massive blow to their bottom line. So you've got this two-pronged attack on their entire business model. The stage was absolutely set for an incredibly volatile, just wild week for IEX's stock. And this timeline just perfectly captures the whiplash the market felt. First, the stock just explodes, surging nearly 15% when it looked like the court was siding with IEX. There was this huge wave of optimism. But then, bam, the regulator throws this weird curveball, a last-minute change to their filing, and the court delays its decision. All that optimism just vanished, and the uncertainty sent the stock crashing right back down, almost 8% in a single day.
So all this legal back and forth leaves the company, its investors, and really the whole power sector in this bizarre standoff. The stock's entire future is now basically hanging on a single court date.
And this is what's so fascinating. Check out the disconnect here. While the stock was getting absolutely hammered because of all this regulatory risk, the company's actual business, it was doing great. Volumes were up nearly 12% from the year before. But then you look at that PE multiple. Think of that as the stock's price tag. It's how much investors are willing to pay for the company's profits. It got slashed by nearly half. It means investors were pricing in a future collapse, even while the business itself was humming along just fine.
So it all comes down to this. The company's future basically rests on what the court decides. You have two possible paths. The bear case. The court sides with the regulator, market coupling goes through, fees get cut, and the stock likely gets hammered even more. Then you have the bull case. The court blocks or delays the regulator's plan. If that happens, the siege is lifted and you can see a massive relief rally for the stock. It's really all or nothing.
And this whole crazy story leaves us with this much bigger question, right? It's about the very role of regulation. When does a rule designed to create more competition go too far and end up dismantling a successful business that, got to the top by being innovative and efficient? But on the flip side, when is it absolutely necessary for a regulator to step in and break up what looks like a monopoly to create a fair market for everyone? In this high-stakes game, the line between those two things is incredibly blurry. And now, it's all up to the courts to decide where it's drawn.